big building, we got a budget, we can't run the air conditioning lower. Good evening. We'd like to start tonight. We'd like to thank all y'all for coming out tonight for this candidates forum. And we'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If y'all would please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Y'all be seated, please. I'd like to start off by, I'm John Lipsey, by the way. I'm president of the Port Norfolk Civic League currently. And we thought we'd have a candidates forum so that our citizens could get a chance to meet the candidates. We know with over 100 neighborhoods, they can't make everybody's meetings in everybody's neighborhood. So this gives us a chance to meet them a little more personally. I'd like to welcome the candidates first for City Council. For School Board. We invited them to come and meet everybody. And here tonight are, if you would stand please, Lynn Briley, Joseph Fleming, Laura McIntyre, Claude Parent, Cardell Patillo, and Sarah Hines. Did I miss anybody?
You did.
I'm sorry.
Kentrell Devon.
I'm sorry, and Kentrell Devon. Thank y'all for coming out tonight. We didn't have time to do everybody in one meeting. It just takes too long, but we appreciate you coming out and getting a chance to meet the neighbors. And our City Council candidates, Paige Cherry, Nathan Clark, Bill Moody, Donna Sy, and Gary Waters. Thank y'all for being here tonight. And we'd certainly like to thank all the citizens for coming out tonight. This is what it's about, democracy. It doesn't get any better than this. We've got a few league announcements I'll make just to get out of the way. Obviously, this is our normal meeting for October. We've decided to have this instead, so we'll do nominations of officers next month and elections on the same night. One big thing coming up a week from Saturday is our Booyah. It's our 3rd annual 5K race. And y'all are all invited to come out. It's a great time. It starts at 8:30 on Saturday morning. We've got about 150 people, I think, signed up so far. And it's a great event for Port Norfolk and for Portsmouth. So if you get a chance to come out and support the race, it's a 1-mile run for kids. It's a 5K. You can dress up. You get we judge for costumes. Parents and strollers are certainly welcome, and pets are welcome. So please come out and support the 5K. The profits are split between the Civic League and the food bank. And the money all stays in Portsmouth, so it's a great thing for us, and please come out if you can. There's some spare porch talks on the table back there if you didn't get one. Don't forget, voter IDs are required. If you don't have one yet, you need to get it or you can't vote. So please remember that. We don't want you to get to the poll and not be able to vote. And thanks to Erica Nestler, who's our vice president, and she provided the food tonight. So we appreciate it. Thank you, Erica. And I'm going to turn it over to Mark DiVenuti. He's going to take care of things for us tonight. Mark is a past president and currently our correspondent secretary.
Thanks, John. Okay, just a quick to go over the rules a little bit. We're going to have our timekeeper, which is right in the front row here, Madeline Grimes, and we thank her for her time. We are going to, you're able to talk about your platform for 3 minutes each. And in a closing for 2 minutes each, and then the same thing with the questions as we go through the questions. We have a half a dozen questions. We hope to get to them all. They were compiled with a small group of people, and we have an order that we're going to go in, so each one of you will have an ability to start off the questions. Asking you to use your big voices. We apologize that we don't have a microphone. We had one, but we thought it would look kind of bad to have to keep passing it back and forth. And so everybody can hear you in the audience, including myself. So if anybody does have their cell phones on, please put them on silent. Hate to say it, but that's what we got to do. All right. We'll start with And opening remarks for 3 minutes, Mr. Cherry.
Thank you. First, let me thank the Civic League for hosting the event, for allowing us to be here. And thank you all of you for being here. I just want to recognize especially a couple people. I want to thank my wife, Beth, my daughter, Felicia, my campaign treasurer, Teresa Gunn, for accompanying me here tonight. It's always good to see somebody in the audience who came with you just for you. But you know, over the last 4 years, the city of Portsmouth has gone through a lot. We've had 3 mayors, 2 city managers, 2 city attorneys, in one of the worst economic times this country has ever seen. But yet we've still made much progress. There's almost $100 million of private investment going on in Portland right now. You know, we have the new Kroger Marketplace about to open up. Chick-fil-A is here. We have apartments on London Boulevard, apartments going on Crawford Street, housing going up in Craddock. And that's just to name a few. And those things didn't just happen. Okay, I had the privilege of serving on the Planning Commission for 8 years to work the plan, to write the comprehensive plan, to see these things happen. Now I got to write that plan, got to work that plan. I'm just looking for 4 more years to continue that plan. You know, we provided monies for our school system, additional $9.4 million to make sure a new superintendent comes in and make sure that he has everything he needs to succeed and not have to worry about how he's going to provide for you and my children. You know, we took care of our employees. We've given raises the last 2 years in a row, 3% last year, 3% this year. Previous years, bonuses. No one is doing that. And in Portsmouth, 30 square miles with a small tax base, we did all that without raising your taxes. Now, if you want that trend to continue, because the future is bright, and there are a lot of great things coming down the pipe, the future is bright, but you have to keep the team together. So I'm just here to ask you to keep me on the team for 4 more years, so I can use that 18 years of experience I gained prior to running for city council on various boards and commissions for you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Clark.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to the Port Norfolk Civic League for inviting us out here tonight. First, I'm just going to touch on my background because a lot of people, you know, I want you to know who I am and where I come from. I first want to tell you this is not the first time that I've been on this stage. It's been over 30 years ago, but when this was a rec center, this is where I grew up at. This rec center kept me out of a lot of trouble when I was a kid. I grew up right here in the 200 blocks of Tauga Avenue. Port Norfolk is my neighborhood. I lived in this neighborhood until I was 20-some years old, and now I live right off of Hartford Street, so I'm still here in this area. A lot of people that are not originally from Port Norfolk, this was a fire station when I was a kid and a post office. My grandmother ran this post office until she retired, and that's when the post office was closed. Then it did become the rec center, which I utilized a lot. I did go to Portsmouth Public Schools. Mr. Parent over here that's running for city council was my first principal at Port Norfolk Elementary right here on Detroit. So he's here. So then after high school, you know, I was only 18 years old. I began my career with the city of Portsmouth. I became a deputy at the young age of 18 years old. And actually, Gary Waters here was the sheriff at the time and gave me that position back then. I did 3 years in the jail because I wasn't old enough to be a police officer. When I turned 21, I couldn't wait. I went to the police department. I worked on the police department, and then after that, I switched over to the fire department, did my last 5 years there. So that gave me a total combination of 20 years with the city of Portsmouth, and I retired in 2007. I also spent time during those years with Virginia Army National Guard as a combat medic, so I do have a little bit of military experience there as well. I have a degree in administration of justice. I currently work for the Virginia Marine Police, so you might see me down at the Bayview Boulevard on the waterfront checking fish and people fishing and fishing license. So I'm still in the area as part of my job as a state officer. I've been here, like I said, grew up here all my life. I call this my bicycle area because there's not an alley in Port Norfolk that I haven't been up and down with my bicycle many miles. So just to say that, just to give you all some of the background of who I am. With my background and experience here in the city, I think I can come up with a new perspective and look at things in different directions and different angles as how they're looked at now. So I really just, love to have your support. You know, there's a lot of people in the neighborhood that know me. So if you don't know who I am, please ask. There's plenty of people out there that do. And I'll be here when it's over with tonight to talk to anybody who'd like to talk to me. Thank you very much.
Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. It's also good to be here. I feel like I'm also at home. I lived in Port Norfolk as a kid, me and 4 other brothers back in the late 50s. Remember walking to the old Port Norfolk Elementary that's now apartments And I remember very fondly the old New York store. I don't know if any of you remember that. That always amazed me as a kid. We lived in back of the bus barn, actually. And I can still hear those buses revving up the motors at night. That fascinated me as a kid. I was elected back in '98, running on the platform that we needed to bring retail business back to the city. And particularly, we needed to do something with Mid-City. It was decaying. Also, Tower Mall was in the same boat. So I spoke to that very frequently and advocated, let's get control of that property and redevelop it. I think if you look at that area now, it's nothing like it was back in 1998. The same way with the whole Frederick corridor. My colleague mentioned that it comes online after a ribbon cutting ceremony, literally right after the ribbon cutting ceremony next week, and citizens will be able to go there and shop. Even without that particular piece of business, what you have now there with the Walmart, with the IHOP, and some of the other businesses, they generate about $3.9 million annually in revenue. Retail business generates a lot of revenue, and that's what we need to keep the tax burden off the backs of our citizens. That's also what we need to improve our communities, invest money into our communities like we did. We put a little bit, 15,000 in Fountain Park recently, and we need to do more for our communities, but in order to do that, we got to have the revenue. So I support making this city a better place to live, to play, and work, and let's bring some businesses to town. Don't know about you, but my suit didn't come from Portsmouth. Unfortunately, if I ask that question in the audience, probably very few hands would go up whether they bought shoes or dresses in Portsmouth. We need to change it. But once again, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Ms. Big Si.
Good evening. I've been called to run for a city council seat to bring back government to the people. Since I'm an idealist, I realize that my reality is based on ideals of finding new ways of doing things. Other people are pragmatic. They are concerned with real-world application of ideas and express awareness of things as they really are. Having two different points of view can be difficult to deal with unless we understand that we are here to work together to make life better for everyone. We need everyone's point of view, no matter what it is. My platform focuses on three ideas: communication, safety, and education. Communication is a spiritual experience. Safety, and it is necessary for all of us to achieve a sense of connection to one another and know we are valued. Port Norfolk Civic League has created a method in doing just that, providing an opportunity for people to experience a sense of community. Port Norfolk was the fifth annexed land from Norfolk in 1919. Now, almost 100 years later, Port Norfolk still has a small town feel to it. It's a community where friends and neighbors come together to make a difference. The architecture of the homes and the atmosphere of times gone by are reminders of an ideal community. Port Norfolk Civic League is a leader in creating a sense of community with this communication, a newsletter called Porch Talk. My second idea is regarding safety. Safety includes many things besides prevention of our personal and real property loss. It also includes job security, proper supervision of children and our neighbors. The Civic League also maintains a neighborhood watch to provide additional safety along with our police department. My third platform idea is one in regard to education. Education is about lifelong learning. Learning results when we are disciplined. It is about being enlightened to understand basic concepts about life. Education is used to correct the temper, form the manners and habits of youth, and fit these youth for usefulness in their future station. A station in life in Portsmouth can very well be a marine industry, since we are a port city, a Coast Guard city, a shipbuilding industry, as well as other maritime occupations. Portsmouth has been the center of our struggle for independence from the time John Smith explored Portsmouth in 1608. By 1767, the people of Portsmouth created a shipyard. The people in the shipbuilding industry have built ships to protect us by maintaining and fighting for our liberty. My call is to help to regain the dignity and honor Portsmouth people so richly deserve, the place where liberty began. Let's work together and learn to communicate effectively with one another, keep everyone safe, and promote education in all areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Waters.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting me. Always a pleasure to be in Port Norfolk. By the way, I didn't grow up here. But for the last several years, I was on the Portsmouth Police Department. I worked burglaries. I used to work right out of the Port Norfolk Rec Center. So I used to put all the bad guys in jail that broke into your houses. I served 16 years on the police department, 24 years as sheriff. As sheriff, I used to keep your waterfront clean down there. They used to ride search and all. I had inmates cut all the debris, and your new park is new, so I didn't have anything to do with that. But I considered running for city council. I'm retired, have a good retirement, but there's a lot of things in Portsmouth I'd like to see changed and done. I love Portsmouth. I grew up here, spent the majority of my life in Portsmouth. I have a daughter and 2 grandsons that's growing up here. 20,000 people have left the city of Portsmouth in the last 10 years. When I was interviewed by the reporter, he did a profile on me. He said he was going to do it on all the candidates, but I haven't seen the other candidates' profiles yet. So I asked him, I said, where do you live? And this man just moved, young kid, just moved from Atlanta, Georgia. He said, well, I live in Norfolk. I said, well, why do you live in Norfolk? You're a reporter for Portsmouth. He says, I have a young daughter that's going to school. Do you think I would send her to Portsmouth Public Schools? This is a problem we have in Portsmouth. Number 1 problem, bar none. We got a bad crime rate. We're number 2 in the state of Virginia. Your chances of being victimized are 1 in 18. And if you'd like a website, I've got it for you. It's examiner.com. You can look up the statistics yourself on the internet when you go home. Mr. Cherry said that they gave the schools a lot of money. Sure they did. This year, it's election year. Look back the last 4 or 5 years to see how much money they give the schools. I'm sure that if you do the research, you'll find that it wasn't nearly enough. Unless we get the schools up to par, we're not going to have any families in Portsmouth, because people with families and children are not going to come where the schools are not good. That's the bottom line. I mean, you can say, and I can say taxes are high, they're high. We have the highest taxes in Virginia. But even worse than crime and worse than taxes is schools. If you don't have schools, you're not going to get families here, period. So I'm committed to giving the school board what they need in order to hire and retain qualified teachers so we can get all the schools in Portsmouth accredited. Thank you.
Thank each of you. Let's go ahead and start with the questions, and the first to answer would be Mr. Cherry, and then we can just go right down the line as long as Madeline doesn't ding you out, okay?
2 minutes, right?
So we're going to start off with
2 minutes or 3?
2 minutes for each answer. I'm sorry. We're going to start right off with something that's near and dear to our neighborhood. Portsmouth's 5 historic districts are a big part of what makes Portsmouth great. What should the city do to ensure the health of the historic districts and cross-departmental cooperation within City Hall to maintain those districts? Mr. Cherry.
Thank you. Well, as you said, they are quite apart, and I happen to have been on the planning commission and chairman when we rewrote the ordinance for the districts. And part of the issue with the districts is you can't do anything in a historic district without going through the committee that covers those things, which you know because you live in the district.
Sir.
What I suggested is that we have people from the other departments sitting on those committee meetings, for example, zoning, planning, historic district, sitting on each other's meetings, because zoning will approve something, or planning commission approve something, the historic district doesn't know about it, and they may or may not allow you to do it. And then you go back to the other department, they said, so that's part of the running around people have been having with the historic district. This department said I could do it, and then the historic district said I can't. So we hear those complaints all the time. So we're looking at having those representatives from each one of those departments be at each other's meeting, for one. Secondly, we have to maintain the standards that are set for the historic districts to make sure that the guy across the street doesn't put something up that's not compatible with the neighborhoods. So inspections is working on that. Are we there yet? No. But are we working on it? Yes. So we understand the problems, and that's what we're working to do as we speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark.
I was a kid here before it was deemed a historical district. I remember when it became a historical district. And there's always been issues. I know one of the things is, color choices. There's a color wheel. If you're going to change the color of your house in a historical district, you have to have that color approved. I remember as far back in the beginning stages of this, there was one individual, and I'll tell you, it's in the 300 block of Maryland Avenue, and it was on the weekend. They had vinyl siding put on their house on Saturday and Sunday when there's no inspectors out. And it was blue, and it was not one of the choices that was on the color wheel. When the inspectors came out the first of the week, they were like, well, we could make them take it off, but we're not going to do that because they covered the house in vinyl siding. Well, the problem is they knew what the rules were before they did it. If we're going to have these rules and regulations in place, they need to be enforced because it's for everybody in the community. And the reason is we're trying to uphold the value of the homes and everything in the community. Because you don't want to put a lot of money in one of these nice Victorian houses down by the waterfront and have it built back to standard based on time period paint colors and then have somebody next door just putting anything on the front of the house that they want to do. And that's part of the problem is the enforcement of the issues by neighborhood quality. So trying to put everybody together, as Mr. Cherry has said, within the city, so everybody in the city's agreement to knowing what's going on, is to actually have people from community leaders, civic leads from these neighborhoods involved in these meetings as well. And it also comes back to, pride and ownership of you having your house. If you see something going on that's not right, feel free to report it because that's what neighborhood quality inspectors are there for. So I think it's a big communication thing that everybody needs to work on together to find the proper answer to maintain the rules and regulations for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moody.
Well, first of all, I'll agree with my colleague. City Hall needs to get on the same page. You should be told with consistency what's required. But I'll go back even farther. Our realtors who sell the houses, they need to be aware of what's required. And I know it's a little disclaimer in the sales agreement, but I know darn well it's not gone over in detail. So that needs to be corrected. We need to do away with the selective enforcement because it's very selective. I had a man in Old Town call me 2 weeks ago. He had a porch that he was building in the back of his house, and his house is way over 100 years old, and they denied it. They said it was a deck. Well, it wasn't a deck, it was a porch. But even if it was a deck, he showed me pictures, and we walked out in the back to see other actually decks that were approved. So that's selective. The other thing that we need to do, we need to look at why are we requiring historic stock to be maintained? The city's not doing a good job of marketing that. We need to shout loud and clear, this city has some of the oldest housing stock in the region. A lot of Norfolk's was burnt by the English. Ours survived because we had a lot of Tories. They treated us more kindly. But we need to use that to our advantage and make people aware of what we have. The city needs to organize tours. I know Port Norfolk does a good job and Old Town does, but we need to give you some assistance in that marketing. And I think a percentage of that marketing money needs to help the preservation of that historic stock, because that is of value to the city. So we need to do a better job, and we just haven't done it.
Well, I talked with an engineer the other night. Every Wednesday, they have all the departments come in, so people can come in when they are planning to do something. All the team is together, so they know the zoning, they know the planning, and all the team is together. He also reported that a lot of civic leagues are folding, and there's nobody from the civic leagues to come in and kind of guide them through things, when things are happening at the city. There's nobody in the civic league to help with directing. The other thing he said, that nobody comes by the engineering department like they do with other departments, like the police department or something like that. So I think the historic district has some resources at City Hall. It's just probably not advertised.
Mr. Waters?
Mr. Moody said City Hall want to get its act together. Well, if I'm not mistaken, City Hall works for the council. They work under the direction of the city manager, who is directly responsible to council. And if the city manager isn't doing his job, get rid of it. But then again, when you look at them paying a $92,000 auditor that can't make up her mind if they're going to keep him or not keep him, he hadn't done an audit in a year and a half. No wonder we have problems down there. Enforce the rules, bottom line.
Thank you all. Question number 2, and we'll start with Mr. Clark. The city jail seems to be a continuing controversy, and there seems to be several options. 1, continue to use it at its current location. 2, tear it down and build a new city jail. 3, tear it down and house all the city prisoners at the regional jail. Which do you prefer and why?
Okay, this question goes back, I have worked down there twice. The jail and myself are the same year. I hope I'm in better condition than what that jail is. I worked in there, I started working in that jail in 1988, and I worked there for 3 years. I most recently was back working at the Sheriff's Department. I worked there from April of 2012 until August of last year when I started my new position with the state. So I'm very familiar with the workings of this. With the jail, first of all, it needs to be removed from that location. That's the only thing left in that block. Since the city has purchased a new building behind City Hall, and that's where the police department is going, the jail is the only thing left there. It needs to go. It was my job. I was in charge of transporting all inmates from that city jail to the new courthouse that opened in September of 2012, approximately 40 inmates a day, and it's an undertaking because you have male inmates, female inmates, you have rival gangs, you have people that cannot be together, family members. So it's like a shell game in the morning trying to transport those people. It's only a mile between the jail and the courthouse, but we would take care of it every morning. I was in charge of it. There were 4 deputies. We had 2 vans. But the design of the courthouse is so there's 3 sally ports, and they didn't realize that a lot of inmates have multiple ports in one day, so it's a big issue. I think the proper answer would be to build another jail here in the city. The problem being is if we go and put our inmates in the Hampton Roads Regional Jail that's over on Elmhurst Lane, that's a cost that we will incur from now on that could intentionally go up every year, and we don't know what they might do. We have no control over that regional jail. But if we purchased land or had land and built a new facility, at some point it would be paid for, and that would be the best option. The other problem with Hampton Roads Regional is we don't have direct control and access over them. There's sometimes somebody might be left off a docket or something, and the judge says, I need Mr. Smith right now. We can go to our jail and get it and make it happen. You don't have that cooperation with Hampton Roads Regional as you do with the Sheriff's Department working directly in conjunction with the judges in our courthouse in our city. So I do believe that the jail should be torn down to utilize that property for something much more valuable than what's sitting there now. But I do think we should build our own jail that we have control over within our city. Thank you.
Mr. Moody.
The jail, moving inmates to the regional jail is not an option now because Chesapeake just joined the regional jail. And they invited them in with open arms because they had lost federal prisoners that were housed there. And there was a lot of finger pointing on that. I was told initially they lost them because of competition, but I've since learned that they lost them because the feds weren't exactly happy with the operation. I think the jail, the ideal place for it would be behind the new courthouse. That way you would cut down on the transportation cost associated with it. With that said, building a new jail has been estimated at $50 million. Now the state for a time was offering some money to offset that, but during their financial crisis, they eliminated that. We're getting ready to initiate a development agreement. I hope we can come up with some ideas. And the demolition of the jail is going to be a very costly endeavor. Just for example, Craddock High School cost over $1 million to demo that. And that had to be reflected in the cost of the property. Or 200 new houses wouldn't be in the process of being built there. So it's a lot of pieces there. I don't think there are many people in the city that don't think that our jail needs to get off the waterfront. It was put there at federal money during the urban renewal program under President Nixon, but that's been long gone. We need to explore the most cost-efficient option, but none of it is going to be cheap.
Ms. Bigson?
I am against removing the jail and tearing down the old Civic Center. We've got another problem coming, and that is the port expansion, and that's affecting roads, bridges, and tunnels. What is happening with that is the city has so many tax-exempt properties, I'm telling you. The tax burden on us is just more than real. The regional jail gets money in place of taxes. So there's a system there that I don't know quite yet about. But I'm thinking about, since we are a maritime industry, we have ways, we have access to channels and berths and wharves and container yards and cranes and gate facilities, intermodal yards, all this stuff about the port. We can have a maritime academy on the waterfront where we can educate using all kinds of classes for all kinds of things that deal with the railway and the ports to the benefit of the citizens here. We need to bring back the glory of Portsmouth. We are a maritime industry, and use that old building and make classes for all kinds of learning experience for people. We have tugboats and all the maritime things that you can think of. To build a maritime academy on the waterfront, leave the jail where it is, and let's get Portsmouth back off its knees and look at us with pride. We are a city that deserves to be thought of in ideas of, we are good people. We fought for our liberty from the time we entered the new world, so to speak, and it came right here in Portsmouth, and people need to recognize it. So I say, let's build a maritime academy on that waterfront and educate.
Mr. Waters?
Well, this is a subject that's real dear to me. As sheriff for 24 years, I probably know probably more about the jail than anybody in this room. First thing I would do, if I was going to do something with the property, I would find out what I was going to do with the property, so it doesn't end up like the old Holiday Inn, a piece of vacant land that's sitting down there on the waterfront that was hired, had at least 100 people working there that were paying taxes, that right now are not working there. A piece of vacant land. The city makes money off the jail. A lot of people don't know this, but the deputies are paid for by the state of Virginia. Also, every inmate in the city jail, the city receives per diem, so much per day per inmate. So if they tore down the jail and moved all the inmates to the regional jail, it would cost the city literally millions and millions of dollars. Now, I think, again, before they think about tearing down the jail, they need to have a study, and the sheriff and city manager needs to get involved in what they're going to do with the property and what they're going to build. They do not need, that jail was built in 1969 to hold maximum security people. I mean, you don't have the kind of people that you had back in the 60s anymore. I mean, if you have them now, they're in federal prisons. They're not in the local jails, they're in federal prisons. So Portsmouth would stand a whole lot better having a work center. Having a work center built someplace where the inmates could go there and go out and work in the community during the day. The high-risk people, they could build a place for them, but it doesn't have to be that large.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Moody, the city auditor.
You might want to share
Oh.
chair and
You know what?
Not the best answer yet on the jail.
Don't put me in it. I'm so sorry.
Speaking of, let me correct a couple of things first so you won't leave here confused. The city does not make money on the jail. Look at our budget, we spend money on the jail. All the deputies that are there, the ones that are paid for by the state, their salary is supplemented by you and I, tax dollars. They're not 100% paid by the state. And there are 19 of them that are 100% paid for by you. So he might used to know everything about the jail more than anybody else, but he doesn't anymore. Let's get that straight. Now, the jail will have to move. And we do know what we want to do on the waterfront. We just can't tell you yet. So the jail will have to move at some point in time. All right? Now, we are not going to move the jail until we have all the things in place. If we were to go out and go to the regional jail to take everybody, it would cost us more money. If we're going to spend $4 million a year to take people to the regional jail, we can take that $4 million and in 10 years pay for a $40 million jail. The options on putting the jail somewhere, one, we could put our own part at where the regional jail is, or we could go to where the new courthouse is. Those are the two best options we have right now. My personal choice is that we really consider the transportation piece. Now, if we have to move the jail immediately, say someone comes along and we need that property, there are jails out there. Every city, 4 cities are offering to take our prisoners right now because they would make money because we have to pay them, just like we pay the regional jail. So we are doing a methodical plan, looking at it right now, and when things develop, we are looking at our options. If something comes quickly, we have the option of farming our prisoners out the other place until we can build a jail. But we're not going to take all the prisoners to the regional jail and put all those deputies and their families out of work. That's not going to happen while the current council is in place. So the jail will go in due time to make sure the waterfront can be developed. Thank you very much.
And our third question, we'll start with Mr. Moody, the city auditor. Is currently auditing Willett Hall ticket sales and vehicle impound operation. To the casual viewer, these appear to be small fish audits. However, as a city council person and boss of the city auditor, what city operations and departments would you have the auditor look at?
Well, to begin with, the audits that you mentioned are incomplete. We don't have a complete audit at this point, as we said here tonight. Back in June, when the auditor asked us that, again, some of us directed him to the department directory down on the first floor, a listing of departments. But specifically, we pointed out those departments that handle cash, those departments that in the past have had some publicized cash handling issues. In fact, one department, it came up some money was missing. It was the water department. I'll tell you, it was publicized. And so they're scurrying around thinking somebody took the money. Well, a lady sitting at her desk in the department says, "Oh, that money's not missing." She says, "I accumulate it, and when it reaches a certain point, I turn it in." Well, obviously, that's not a good procedure for handling your money. So that was one of the departments we wanted looked at. Departments that have a lot of automobiles, for instance, the police department, that's one of the incomplete audits that is out there. But we haven't had much to look at in the 17 months that the gentleman has been the auditor. But I do think we need an auditor. My thought process early on, before we hired a full-time auditor, was let's hire one auditor on an as-need basis. That way, the independent auditor doesn't hang around the coffee machine and get to know everybody. And that way, when I come in your department and I've been drinking coffee with you for 6 months, we're kind of chummy. You bring in an independent auditor with municipal experience, then I think you would get a much better product. Then if they're not doing the job, they're very easily fired.
Well, we had a finance committee, and so it wasn't used properly, and that could have saved us a lot of money in the first place. They went on and hired an auditor instead of the finance committee working as it needed to be. So I think everything in the city needs to be audited, to tell you the truth. I don't trust anybody working in the city. So I think they all need to be audited at one time or another.
Mr. Waters?
When I was sheriff, they had an independent auditor, an audit firm that would come in once a year, and they would go through our books and audit our records. And I know the city of Portsmouth for a number of years received awards for their financial, the way that they did their finances. They got awards that they did such a good job. Personally, we have a city manager council form of government. You don't need the city council having a city manager run the city and then having an independent person going behind the city manager seeing if he's doing his job. You hold the city manager accountable. All the department heads are accountable to the city manager, and you should have him come up with some mechanism that if you think money's missing or not being done right in a certain department, then have the city manager get with that department head and come up with procedures that to be followed, and make sure that the city manager follows up on those procedures. But as far as having an independent auditor, paying them $100,000 a year with benefits, much more than that, I think the money could be much better spent. Hire 4 or 5 more police officers. I mean, you can't hire 4 or 5 police officers for $100,000, but I know that it would be a whole lot better to use the money for something else. Give it to the schools rather than give it to somebody sitting up there drinking coffee doing nothing.
Mr. Cherry?
Thank you. The city's financial records are audited by Trade Bank and Holiday every year, and we get council gets a report. As far as the audits that we have now, yes, it got off to a slow start. He wasn't going as quick as we wanted to, as Mr. Moody said, we gave him 90 days to bring us something back, and he did. Now, let me say this to you. I did government auditing in the manpower arena, financial arena, for 12 years, from 1996 to 2008. We have 4 people on council. The mayor runs a successful business with government contracts that are subject to audit all the time. Just like HRT just went through a big audit. But the Mix has a company that's international, subject to government audits at all levels. Councilman Edmonds runs a mega church with a bank facility that makes $1,000 every month, and a school that's accredited, that's subject to the same audits and things that the school system is subject to. I personally oversee 42 Coast Guard clinics and their finances. See audits all the time, undergoing one as we speak. So, when I did my audits, what I gave the people when I came back was a cover sheet, a spreadsheet that said what I did, because most people don't care what's behind the numbers or wouldn't understand it or to put them to sleep. But those 4 of us who do this for a living understood what the auditor brought back to us. And what he brought back to us was quality. And as a matter of fact, my colleagues made some phone calls based on what he brought back to us. So what I'm here to tell you is everything you read in the paper is not true. Audit work is not subject to be made public because it could jeopardize the work that's being done and some of the people that are being audited. So he did some work for the assessor's office that she was very pleased with. He's doing work right now. The mayor and I have been appointed by council to be the new audit committee. We will meet with the auditor every Wednesday, that first Wednesday of the month at 11:30. We met with him yesterday, got 3 updates from him today on things he's working on, and I can tell you that he is gainfully employed and that we will stay on him. And if he fails to produce in the future, like any appointee, he can and will be let go. But at this point, he is producing.
Mr. Clark?
All right, well, in this situation, obviously, I don't have the information that some of the individuals have that are on council. So I have to look at it as a citizen and my tax dollars being spent. According to what it said in the newspaper, it said he found $3,000 missing from Willett Hall. He makes twice that a month. You know, that's what his salary is. I don't know that we need an auditor position anyway. It was just told to you that there is an auditing company that audits the city every year. So if that is the case, I don't know why we need an auditor in the position that that individual's in. Been there for a year and a half without producing. I can tell you right now, when I started as a police officer in Portsmouth, if I hadn't produced, written any tickets or arrested anybody for a year and a half, I would have been sent packing. They took my badge, took my gun, and sent me home. I just look at it as dollars and cents. I don't, you know, the two things, you know, the Willett Hall and the impound yard, which I am familiar with that because through my years, I did a lot of vehicle impounds, so I know what they're talking about in that situation. But I don't know the purpose of spending excess of $100,000 a year to uncover, you know, $3,000, $4,000 a year. Like I said, I don't have the inside information on that, but looking at it from the outside, I feel like the individual has not done his job. Therefore, if you don't, you know, produce and show your information in a timely manner, then you probably shouldn't have that position. And just based on limited knowledge, I feel like we shouldn't have it. Thank you.
And the next question will start with Ms. Biggs' side. More Portsmouth homes are being added to the high-risk floodplain maps. At the same time, subsidies for flood insurance are being reduced. This will ultimately drive the value of these homes down, meaning property taxes for the city. How do we counter the loss of this revenue?
All right, that's a difficult question because what I'm finding with government, they're going to do whatever they want to do with the citizens' voice or opinion or input. And so, and the team is not together to make a decision for that. It's the people are making the decisions without any input from the citizens. So the people like here would need to be there and make a decision on what to do about it. I mean, that's what I'm supporting. More citizen engagement to make a decision, because that's a difficult decision for one person to make. So I would have to confer with my voting citizens what their ideas would be on that, because it is a difficult idea.
Mr. Waters?
I would do everything I could to get more people to move back into Portsmouth. Like I said, as long as people's moving out, we're going backwards. We've got to find some way to get people and their families to move back into the city of Portsmouth and stop moving out. 20,000 people in 10 years is a lot of people. And if you look at the people that die in the city over the year, I mean, you're looking at probably another 1,000. So we have to find some way to encourage more people to move in and to encourage more businesses to move in. I think we need to be business friendly. I don't think Portsmouth is very business friendly. New York has a plan they call Share New York. And for 10 years, if a business will move into New York, they will give that business, they will waive all the taxes and fees. So it costs that business nothing to get established. Now, when they do that, the businesses have people that's going to be working for them, and they will be paying taxes. And this is for only new businesses coming in, not old businesses. And I would support doing that for a 3-year period for new businesses coming into the Portsmouth.
Mr. Cherry?
Well, I think we'll continue doing what we're doing now. We're adding to the housing stock, which increases the tax base. We have economic development going on all over towns I just spoke about, and almost $100 million of private investment going on right now. So those things. Now, there are people who work at the naval hospital, the shipyard, Coast Guard base, and things, who live on the other side of the water, who come through that tunnel every day, who paying tolls. They're not, some of them make a lot of money. They're going to have to adjust their incomes, and when those tolls hit completely in 2017, they're going to look for someone to live in Portsmouth. And we're building a housing stock right now to be prepared for that. That's what we're thinking about. We're just not building houses just to be building them, or building apartments just to be building them. We're building them looking at the future and what's happening right now. So when they get ready to come to Portsmouth, they're going to be feet on the street. There are going to be more people to walk downtown and spend money and pay taxes. And we continue the account development things that we have going on now to build a tax base, and that's how I make a distance. The floodplain map, we didn't have no control over. But what we have done as a city, and our planning staff has done, putting together programs right now where if you're in one of those floodplains, you're going to get an automatic discount because of the steps that the city of Portsmouth is taking right now. You don't have to call your insurance company, you don't have to do anything. Because you live in Portsmouth, and our planning department has put forth the effort to make sure we're in the know, you will get automatic discount. And with those continuing things we're doing, we'll weather this storm. We, in 30 square miles, have weathered the storm and economic downturn better than anyone on the Southampton roads without tax base. And we can continue to do that as long as we keep people on council who are skilled at taking small amounts of money and making critical decisions. And that's what I do every day for a living. That's what I've been doing for you for 4 years, and that's what I keep doing for you.
Mr. Clark?
One thing I'd like to see happen, and this could generate some revenue, and it's a twofold. It takes care of two issues. It has nothing directly to do with the houses, but any way that we can save money within the city, it relieves the burden from a taxpayer another way. Portsmouth Marine Terminals, that's right here at the edge of Port Norfolk, is opening back up. I'm sure everybody probably saw that in the paper. Anybody that's from Port Norfolk or has been here for a while knows how bad it used to be when the trucks came through Port Norfolk. The damage it was causing to the roads, the damage it was causing to the houses. It's still happening. It might not be happening on Mount Vernon Avenue anymore. They're going down Virginia Avenue. And I know they're doing a connector to connect MLK over to 264, but they're still driving down Virginia Avenue, still driving down High Street. At one point in time, we had a motor carrier unit here in the city of Portsmouth. It's part of the police department. And a lot of people don't realize how dangerous these tractor trailers are driving on the roads. Every one of them is driving cars beside these tractor trailers down Airline, Portsmouth Boulevard, everywhere else. If they're not maintained safety-wise and everything else, they're a big hazard on the road. They weigh much more than a car. If they can't stop, the car is not going to win, unfortunately. Motor carrier unit issues civil penalties for overweight fines and safety issues. The thing is, with a truck that's overloaded and overweight, it's causing a lot of damage to our roadways. And as Portsmouth Marine Terminal, we're not getting any taxes from them because it's a state operation. So we're gaining no money by those trucks that are tearing up our roads to make their money using commerce on these ships, but we're not getting anything from them. But we need to look at it as a safety issue, but at the same time, these civil fines would come back to the city, and they could be earmarked for roadway repairs or any other thing in the city, but any money that comes to us that we could use for that would be less of a burden on the taxpayers and the homeowners. It's just another avenue of generating funds. At the same time, we're making a safer environment for our motorists within the city. Thank you.
I think the question was, how are we going to replace the people lost due to the losses, perhaps people living in flood areas. I think we need to change our marketing. I think we need to get with realtors, do an aggressive marketing campaign. We need to direct our marketing on the other side of the tunnel. I think one of my colleagues mentioned that people who come to Portsmouth to work, and there are numerous people who do that, once that subsidy leaves the tunnel tolls, that's going to cost a lot of money. We need to expose those people and via the realtors of what we have available in the city. And you can get more for your dollar, housing dollar, in Portsmouth still than you can in Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, in many cases Norfolk. So we need to capture that. We also, and I come from the sales arena, I worked at Dowdy's Foods here in Port Norfolk for 28 years, managed a sales department of 70 and a $100 million budget. I didn't stay sales manager for a long time, not being aggressive. I didn't sit at my desk waiting for customers to come to me. I got off my duff and I went to where the customers were. And in our next economic development director, we need to make sure that we got someone who knows Portsmouth, knows what the selling point is, and will get out from under their desk and go call on these people. I think we're missing the boat in a lot of cases. Economic development, do you know part of that $90 to $100 million investment that we got coming online as we speak? Quarters at Parkview just opened. That's over 140 units luxury apartments. We got Vista Harbor at the roundabout, getting ready to go under construction. We got Sterling Court. We got Kings Court. We got 384 apartment units getting ready to come online. So that will bring people in.
Thank you. And this is, we'll start with Mr. Waters, and it's pretty much a follow-up to what we were just talking about. Tolls appear to be here, and they're staying. What would your plan be to, for Portsmouth to use the tolls to our advantage and expand our economic base?
I don't see any way they can use the tolls to our advantage, to be honest with you. The only thing I would do is I would see if we could work with some of the businesses to, we've got 20 restaurants downtown. A lot of people are not going there because of the tolls. I think that something should be worked out. Maybe give them a break in taxes so they can, if people come to the restaurants, they can refund the tolls. And have a mass advertising campaign. If you go to Lobscalcer and you live in Virginia Beach, then we will refund your tolls. Tolls are here to stay. There's no way, they really did us in on that. There's just no way you're gonna undo it. So we're gonna have to make the best of it that we can.
Mr. Cherry?
You know, as I said in the last question, you know, since the tolls are here, they are going to create a problem for people who have to travel back and forth and don't make a lot of money. I myself go to Norfolk every day. I work on Main Street in Norfolk, and I make what most people consider a decent salary, but I had to adjust my budget to do that. So this housing stock and being prepared for people who have to move to Portsmouth is going to help. That's one. Now, there's not very much we can do about tolls. The governor has some plans that he's been trying to work on. If they come to fruition, great. But if they don't, the best thing we can do now is make Portsmouth a destination. People go to other cities, other states, and pay the toll with no issues because there's something on the other side of there that they want to get to. So once we have something downtown on our waterfront that people want to get to and they want to see, it won't matter what the toll is, they'll pay it and they'll come. And that's what we're working on right now to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clark?
Okay, I don't see the tolls going away either. I don't think it's going to happen. And this is not, a lot of people remember, this is not the first time we had tolls on the tunnels. I remember throwing a quarter in the tunnel going through there in high school, so this is just something they brought back. But the way I think to use it as an advantage, which, using the terms of the question, is people aren't coming through the tunnel because they don't want to pay the tolls, so that's Norfolk, Virginia Beach. But let's look at it another way. People don't want to go through the tunnel the opposite direction. We want them to stop here in Portsmouth. So, you know, you've got a lot of people, and there's a lot of construction, there's a lot of open land, you know, past us. I was a school resource officer in Isle of Wight County at Smithfield Middle School for several years. There's so much construction going on there, so many new neighborhoods, so many families with kids and a lot of stuff like that. But there's not a lot of restaurants or anything else like that in Isle of Wight County. It's very limited. So if they don't want to pay the tolls, that's good. Stop them in Portsmouth. Take the last exit before you get through the tunnel. It's a marketing campaign. We want to draw these people into our areas. We need to show them what we have to offer and capture that and have them come spend those tax dollars at our restaurants and venues that we have in the city. So if people don't want to come from Norfolk, Virginia Beach, let's pull them in from the other way and stop them before they go through to that direction. So that way, you know, possibly we could look at it as an advantage that way to keep them from bypassing us to going to restaurants in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. Thank you.
Mr. Moody?
Well, I've always subscribed, if you've been dealt a lemon, try to make lemonade out of it. We were dealt a lemon. I still think that with ERC's problem, we should be exploring breach of contract. But that's something our legislators hopefully will get involved. I know they have fought, Louise Lucas in particularly, helped get this governor to buy down the toll. But as we know, this governor is only in office 4 years. But our marketing, and I mentioned this in the other question, we need to market housing stock over Norfolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach. But we need to market to the west up here in Suffolk, Isle of Wight County, even the peninsula that do not have to pay to come to Portsmouth. But we have to have more things to bring them here. As beautiful as our waterfront is, it irks me every time I drive down Waterside Drive on a weekend and they got some event going on. We've gotten marginally better, but it's been kicking and screaming. We need to ramp it up. And when we ramp it up, we need to make sure it's combined with the marketing campaign to get the people here for events on the weekend. You know, I'm a firm believer, people, 35 and below, they're looking for something fun to do on the weekends. If they got families, they're looking for family events to go to. Heck, we got Virginia's Children's Library. We got Sports Hall of Fame downtown. So we have some good nucleus there, but we need to have other events. That's what was great about Portside. I hated like heck when Portside was torn down. We need that type of facility. But we need events. What's to say we can't close half a high street off and have open air events, craft shows, entertainment. We need to do that. We need to think out of the box.
Ms. Beekside?
Would you ask the question again, please?
Sure. Tolls appear to be here to stay. How can Portsmouth use the tolls to our advantage?
I think one of the ways to use the tolls to our advantage is for the council to become a team. That is one of the problems I'm seeing. I've been hung 3 years from work up in Pennsylvania. I have not had one conversation with any of the legislators sitting on city council. Not one. Like I'm having a conversation with y'all, not one. Until we can get our act together on the council and on the school board, we're not going to get anybody here.
We'll go back to Mr. Cherry. How do we continue to responsibly fund the schools at the proper levels to increase and enhance the school's overall performance?
Well, it's simple. We do what we're doing now. And you know, school funding, schools have generated surpluses the last 8 years in a row. So the funding has not been an issue. It's how you properly apply the funds. Now, we provided additional money this year to give a comfort level to programs we wanted to make sure they weren't going to go away and that new superintendent would come in without any worries. But once we get this, we all understand the schools have to be where they need to be, where people want to live in. No one wants to live in a city that don't have excellent schools. When we go out and try to recruit businesses to come to the city as council people and as economic development people, first thing they want to know is, how are your schools? So the schools are a major investment for all of us. And we don't just talk the talk on the campaign trail about education. We believe in it. My daughter's a graduate of Churchland High School, 2010 undergraduate. She's a 2014 soon-to-come undergraduate in Norfolk State University. So our school system can produce the proper good students, and they do. But we have to do a better job of telling our story. We got to get the right people in place. Everyone has a heart for kids, but y'all got to have a head for business. So putting a person with a heart for kids in the school board and doesn't understand the business aspect will not get us where we need to be. I think you have some candidates running now who can do that, and with the funds that we provided, because if the city had $92 million over the last 8 years to do, we could do a lot for you. If the schools did. It just didn't matriculate into the results we wanted as far as SOLs testing and other scores and graduation rates. So once you get the proper people in place, we continue the funding level that we have now. And when the businesses start to come and people start to move here, the economic base will build, the tax base will build, and we'll continue to fund and build even bigger and better schools. That's how we do it.
Thank you. Mr. Clark?
The schools is something I feel that need to be fully funded. It has to happen. It's one of the three spokes in the wheel, the way I look at it, because the education, if we don't have a good school system, nobody wants to live here, they don't want their children to go to school here, that is a problem. We want to bring in more residents and we want to bring in more businesses. So we're looking at safety, education, and economic development, but we have to move forward with all three simultaneously because the other two rely on the one that you're looking at. But you can't do one without the other. I think the school needs to be fully funded. There's a lot of people and there's a lot of things that can be changed in the school technology-based. As I said, when I was a resource officer in Isle of Wight County, the kids out there have iPads. It's technological advancement. They're all issued one. They take it home. Their textbooks are on that iPad. They don't have to carry 10 books. They can have 10 books in that one iPad. So there's a lot of things that, as council, we don't have control over those things, but to give the money to the school board that can make those tough decisions on what they need for the kids, but it has to be done. The schools need to get accredited, because that's what a potential home buyer is going to be looking for if they have a family or school-age kids. That is something that is very important, because without that, we're not going to attract people to move to this great city. Thank you.
Mr. Moody?
I think we have supported schools, fully funded schools. I think the first step is to have a level of trust and make sure somebody is dealing with accurate figures. We got to believe in their figures, they got to believe in ours. And meeting once a quarter as two bodies is not enough. I think until we move the needle on improving our schools, I think the two bodies need to meet more often. I'm optimistically anticipating the arrival of a new superintendent. I think that affords a great opportunity for a new beginning, a real new beginning this time, between the school board and city council. But we have to trust each other. And to trust, we got to build some rapport. I've recommended that early in the new superintendent's tenure that we even have a retreat so we can get out everything on the table. We can find out what their needs. It really disturbs me during the budget cycle. I saw teachers coming to speak to council, and they were saying that they had computers that were outdated, had cobwebs in them. When I asked them why you haven't told us, a lot of them indicated that they were afraid to tell that to their people. Now, that shouldn't be. By golly, that should not be. You cannot return $90 million to the city in a 6 or 7 year period. If you give me $100 to go buy shoes because they got holes in them, and I bring you back $90 and I still got holes in my shoes, shame on me. Granted, we returned a lot of that, but we got to do better than that. That money that we allocate, we got to be certain that it's reaching the classrooms. Teachers having to buy their own supplies, bus drivers having to buy their own brooms to sweep the buses out. And, you know, we can do better than that. We got to do better than that. Thank you.
Ms. Big-Side?
One of the things I'm hearing about the Portsmouth school system is a discipline problem. And what I learned is that if student behavior is inappropriate in the school system, they're not going to learn. That's one of the things. The other thing is, somebody said there weren't any grant writers in the school system where they can write grants and get support for things that they might need. The other thing is communication. People aren't communicating with one another. I write emails all the time. Who responds? Nobody. So, I mean, we got a communication problem in the city, number one. And if a teacher's got a problem in the school, then she needs to tell somebody what they need. And what are they going to teach a child if they can't ask for help? What are they going to do to teach a child how to ask for help? No, they're not going to ask. They'll just go and do what they want to do. Funding, I think we're doing excellent on funding. I just think we need to learn how to spend it in an appropriate way. And we need to get the discipline in the school. Things that happen in the school, they're not even reporting to the Board of Education in Richmond. So we need to get some communication going here. And we need to get some discipline in the school. And not be ashamed to hold people accountable. What I'm finding here in Portsmouth, people don't want to be held accountable for what wrongdoing they're doing. If I hold somebody accountable for something, boy, they come back at me with, with claws drawn. We got to hold people accountable. We got to be idealistic. Some of us can be pragmatic, but we have to come together.
Mr. Waters?
The only thing that council has to do with the schools is funding source. It's a violation of state law to get involved in school matters. That's why you have an elected school board. But I certainly think that we do not need an adversary relationship between the council and the school board. I've got a couple members of the school board that are personal friends of mine, and I've talked to them about the problems. And all of them say right up front, well, we can't trust the city. You know, if we do this, the city's going to screw us. Well, like Mr. Moody said, you've got to have mutual respect. I told this one person, I said, well, you know, it's all city money. I mean, I don't care whether it goes to school, it goes to public work, or where it goes. You're still spending taxpayers' dollars. So you're going to have to learn to have mutual respect and work together in order for it to work.
Thank you. And the next question goes back to flooding again. Flooding continues to be a major issue in a lot of our neighborhoods, and especially in the downtown business district. The cost to prevent it is astronomical. How do you find the funds to build the projects to take care of this continuing problem? And we'll start with Mr. Clark.
I believe there has been numerous studies on the flooding issues that I'm not privileged to, that I believe the council has done in the past. I know there is work going on in the downtown area right now. I have observed the equipment myself. They're putting in some new pipes and stuff like that, the infrastructure in the roadways downtown. I have not been fortunate enough to see these studies, but if the studies have been done with the information on how to do it, it's time to make a plan and continue on and just making the repairs. And a lot of this could be done with new business in cooperation. I know that Kroger Marketplace, you see they're doing a lot of infrastructure changes in the roads there to add new drainage pipe and stuff. A lot of that is part of the deal when new businesses come in. So I think it's a collaborative effort between investors and businesses coming to our city and using city funds as well. But I believe the research has been done, so now it's just time to work and fund it and correct all these issues. Thank you.
Mr. Moody?
You know, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, and I know that's a banal expression, but that study that was mentioned to correct the problem back about 6 years ago was a $500 billion solution. Unfortunately, we need to put more money into it, and there have been some successes. The infrastructure downtown will help some, but that's really more to replace the 100-year-old sewer pipes and water pipes. There have been some progress in Truxton to alleviate some of the flooding. Same way with Simonsdale, Prentice Park. But a lot of people who look at the negatives and say we're at sea level. Well, we're not at sea level, but we're not very far from it. And keep in mind when the city was built, and this is an old city, they didn't think of drainage in that respect. So to replace it all is $500 million. We need to continue on it. Future councils need to keep biting that elephant one bite at a time. And ODU study says it's going to get worse. I don't know if you called the news before I came over here. They had a thing on sea lions. What's the other animal? Big ugly animal. Wirelesses. It was just thousands of them on the beach because the ice that they have to set on to survive is melting. So they had to swim to the beach, and unfortunately they may perish because of that. So sea level is rising. Those who are in denial, they need to look at the facts.
Ms. Big Sight?
When I was walking around knocking on doors for this campaign, I noticed the ditches and the pipes and things like that. Some people had dug out their ditches and put wood, I guess it is, to make it look and flow nice. And then it stopped right there where the next person's property started. And I thought, well, why didn't they ask that other person if they could work as a team and make it from pipe to pipe? So what I was thinking about is asking the engineer or the public works person to hold classes and teach the people how to fix their ditch if they have it, and scoop out the pipe. And I think it would be a nice little project. And that's for the basic yard things. I'm not talking about, you know, the downtown and all the digging up that that the water people are doing. But so I was thinking about that. That would be a nice civic league project to do something simple like that.
Mr. Waters?
It's an enormous expense. We have an old city, and most of the drain lines are very, very old. I would try to get the manager to seek state and federal grants, because the citizens of Portsmouth will never be able to pay for it. But I know there's got to be some federal and state grants available. You just have to be able to find them.
Mr. Cherry?
Thank you. You know, flooding is just not issue in Portsmouth, it's for the whole region. As a matter of fact, we have a consent order that mandates that we do something about the flooding. So we don't have an option. And you've seen the equipment that's sitting on Green Street where the former Zion Baptist Church sat. Well, that's part of that company there is working on things downtown. You've seen the equipment sitting on Effingham Street next to the fire station where the future Taco Bell line is going. They are working on some drainage issues downtown. We have pipes that are over 100 years old, so it took a long time to get this way. It's going to take a while to get there to fix it. Now, people will say you're working downtown, not working anywhere else. Well, to get some businesses to come to downtown, economic development going, we're going to have to make sure where they want to move in that there's proper drainage, because no one wants to put a business there where they're going to flood the first time it rains. So we're working one place at a time. We have spent, last year, it was $12 million on the first phase of drainage work downtown. The second phase is $18 million. We just simply do not have the money to do $500 million for work at one time. It's going to take a while, but yes, we're working it, and we're working strategically with the projects that are going to bring economic development to help pay for the drainage work, as well as relieve you on some of the tax base. So the plan is there, we're working it, you just need to keep working it, and you got to keep the council in place to work it. Thank you.
Thank you all for your answers. Let's go ahead and start the closing remarks. You each have 3 minutes to do your last little bit of campaigning with us this evening. We really want to thank you for your time. We will have a little extra time if anybody in the audience would like to talk to any of the candidates as we start to clean up. And we'll go ahead and start with you once more, because I didn't want to miss you.
I like that. First, again, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for having us. You know, the last time I was here was when Norfolk was going through, you were going through the deal with Gold Creek and trying to keep that as a green space. You know, and I stood with your neighborhood then. My colleague, Curtis Evans, and I voted to make sure that it stayed there. We didn't win that round, but it's about the water. That was just one battle. So I'm just asking you to stand with me now. I didn't wake up one day and decide to run for council. As I said, I spent 18 years prior to that working on different boards and commissions. Chair of the Planning Commission 4, served on it for 8. Municipal Finance Commission, Craney Island, Housing Board of Justice and Appeals, and the list goes on. I prepared myself to be where I am today. Now, some people here say they were born in Portsmouth. I wasn't born in Portsmouth. I'm here because I want to be in Portsmouth. I chose to be in Portsmouth. When I left the Army with my Bronze Star, I could have gone anywhere I wanted to, but I wanted to be here. Why? I visited here when I was a kid. My aunt was the seamstress at the old famous store. We used to come downtown Portsmouth and have a great time, go to Tower Mall. Me and my cousins used to sit in the middle. Y'all remember the chairs that been sent us to Tower Mall? My cousin and I used to sit there and watch the girls go by. My sister back there is a 35-year veteran of the Portsmouth Public School System and reading specialist. I'm a family guy. I want to be near family. My hometown is Windsor, North Carolina, 80 miles from here. 600 people in that town. But this allowed me to be close to them, and I was taught that if you live in the community, be a part of the community. So I came here, and day one, started working in my community, became the president of my civic league, forced me to show my city. Didn't like the way things were working, so I got truly involved, got appointed to some boards and commissions, planning commission the last one, and now I'm here to serving you. I write the plan for the city now. Walmart didn't just happen. Lowe's didn't just happen. Kroger didn't just happen. Chick-fil-A didn't just happen. It's all a part of the comprehensive plan that I had the pleasure of having to co-author. And now I've been working that plan for the last 4 years and 3 months. Now I'm going to continue to work that plan for you in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Clark?
All right, well, I'm going to keep this short, but like I have explained to y'all before, I've been here all my life. I know a lot about the city of Portsmouth, and I was alluding to a lot of things I knew about Port Norfolk because, of course, this is where I rode my bicycle. But I know a lot about every community in the city of Portsmouth. At some point in time, I've been in every community in the entire city of Portsmouth, whether I was wearing a police uniform or riding an ambulance or the fire engine. So ever since I was an adult at 18 years old, I have been serving this city in one capacity or the other. That's across the board. I've treated, my goal was always to provide the best that I could to the citizens when I responded to a call. Because a lot of times, when you respond to a call, that person you're responding to is possibly having the worst day of their life. And we respond to help that person. And that's how I'm looking at it, is I just want to wear a different hat. I would like to get your vote for city council, because I think after all the experience I've had in this city, a lot of the people that I know in the city, I'm very familiar with the issues, but I do have a different perspective on it. I've done a whole lot. A lot of people remember Twin Lakes, the issues that we had there. I was on the ground. I tore up a lot of tennis shoes running through there chasing people. And we took 9 co-defendants, we took them to federal court, and we got them out of here. And now that's gone. Now we have Lake Shores community that also uses this as their form for their civic league. So I have done a lot. I was boots on the ground, like I said, chasing people through the city. I've chased people down this street. I've just done it. I've been everywhere in the city. So I would like to use my experience and education and everything that I've compiled over all these years of my experience to put them to work in a different capacity for all of the citizens. So I will be here. I would love to have your support on November the 4th. So if you would, please vote for me on that date. And I will be here after this is over until the last person leaves if anybody would like to talk to me. Thank you very much.
Mr. Moody?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming out tonight. I, too, asked for your vote on November the 4th. When I came to council in 1998, I did, once again, advocate the need to let's get back in the retail business. Let's bring business back to this city. But I also did something else. I made a commitment early on that I would be responsive to the citizens who put me there. I probably field more calls and return more calls from citizens than probably any colleague I got on city council. And those are the things I enjoy. It's easy deciding to bring a $20 million Kroger to Portsmouth. It's a little harder trying to fight for a citizen to fight bureaucracy downtown on what should be a common sense issue. So I'm not a bump on the log. I'll ask questions, and I will ask, for instance, why were we paying 2 fire chiefs at one time? I'll ask that question. I'll ask why a highly paid employee hasn't produced something in 17 months. I'll continue to do that because that is what is right. If you put me back in office on November the 4th, I'm not going to change. I still have my fire in the belly to do this, and I'll continue to work to bring economic development here, to keep your community safe, as I did when I was here 4 years ago. There's a problem with prostitution, problem with the hotel. I took that to heart and worked with my colleagues to get that squared away. So I'm positive. I feel the glass is half full. I think the best days of Portsmouth is still in front of us. So I want to continue working for you, and I would appreciate your vote on November the 4th. Thank you very much.
Ms. Gibson?
I was called to run for office, kicking and screaming. I don't want to run for office, so I'm here. I'm doing the best I can. God prepared me to come here and do what I'm doing today. Because if I didn't get my education, I wouldn't be here holding people accountable for their jobs. But I want to see honor and dignity brought back to Portsmouth. I am so sick and tired of living in a city where I'm working myself to death by myself, trying to do everything, pay my taxes, support everybody else, and then I don't have a voice. I go down to city council and people laugh at me all the time. Oh, people don't understand what you're saying. So I don't know. I'm here for you, the people. But if the people don't want me, then where are we going? The city council right now, they are the same thinking, planning, doing the same thing. And I don't know, if y'all want to have the same old, every day, every year, then okay, just keep the same people in office. But I'm here to help the people take back this government that is controlling our lives. That's all I'm here for. I'm here for you. And you can vote for me in November 4th, or anybody else you want to vote for. Have a good night.
Mr. Waters.
Wow. Thank you all for coming out tonight to hear us, listen to us. You've heard what our responses have been to the questions. I served as your sheriff 24 years. I never refused to return a phone call. I always did everything I could to help the community. Many programs in place today. I started, as you drive through the city, you see the Kid Watch signs. I did that for children. My goal and hopes would to be able to be part of a team that can make the city of Portsmouth one of the best places in the United States to live. And you have 3 votes come November 4th. I'm asking for your consideration for one of those 3 votes. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank y'all for coming out tonight and spending your time in our neighborhood. And thank everybody else for coming out tonight. We've got about a half an hour left where we've got the building, so please mingle and talk. And if you got questions still for individual candidates, you can do that now. November 4th, I don't need to remind y'all to vote. You're here because you want to vote. But please tell all your friends and your neighbors. It's important. It's what makes us great. And as always, don't ever forget to support your local businesses, please. Thank y'all for coming. We are now adjourned. Thank y'all.